All right, I'm going to review the quiz with you. So number 1, is yellow the dominant or the recessive trait? So this is, on the actual quiz, this color is green and this color is yellow. The printed version is not in color, unfortunately. So what we see here is that the ones that have 2 lowercase letters are yellow, and the ones that have a uppercase letter and a lowercase letter are green. So whatever trait the heterozygous individual has is the dominant trait if we're talking about complete dominance. And as I mentioned, all of the first section, the first page of questions is all just complete dominance, dominant and recessive. So just purely by the fact that we are in the complete dominance section, you could actually eliminate codominant strategically. You could also eliminate codominant because none of these phenotypes are both green and yellow, which is what it would be if it was codominant. So anyways, 2 lowercase letters is going to be the recessive genotype, and it's going to show the recessive phenotype, in this case, which is yellow. Okay, parents in the Punnett square. So I'm going to write out the parents like this, just because it'll help me visualize what I'm answering. Obviously, one parent is up here, one's down there. Not both heterozygous. They are not both homozygous, because this is homozygous, 2 of the same lowercase letters. This one is heterozygous, 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter. So one is homozygous recessive, yes, because it's homozygous, 2 of the same, and they're lowercase, so recessive. And one is heterozygous. This one is true. This one is incorrect because they are not dominant. If they were, they would have to be uppercase. The G allele is for green eyes, and the uppercase G is for green eyes. Lowercase g is for gray eyes. This is essentially the same as the examples we use in class, except substitute green for brown and gray for blue. So same idea. There's a dominant eye color brown, there's a recessive eye color blue, or green and gray in this situation. So if someone has the heterozygous genotype with one of the uppercase dominant alleles, they have to have the dominant trait, which in this case is green eyes. Okay, if 2 parents both have gray eyes is the lowercase allele, which means it's the recessive trait. So if we have recessive parent with gray eyes and recessive parent with gray eyes, remember that the recessive trait, there's only one possible genotype. If it's recessive trait, like gray eyes, they have to be homozygous recessive. Because if they're heterozygous, then they don't have gray eyes, they have green eyes. So what % chance does the child have of having gray eyes? This is going to, there's only lowercase g alleles. There's nothing else. So 100% of the children are going to have gray eyes. If one parent is homozygous recessive, that's 2 lowercase letters, and the other parent is homozygous dominant, what % chance does their child have of being homozygous recessive? So we're going to do a Punnett square. You might just know this from thinking about it. But as soon as one of the parents is homozygous dominant, none of the children will have the recessive trait because they're all going to get the uppercase Q from the homozygous dominant parent. That's the only type of allele this parent has to give, is that dominant one. So 0% chance of having the homozygous recessive genotype in the children. There's only 3 Punnett squares that have the recessive genotype. Oh, oops, I didn't realize there was a back to this. Hello. Back to number 3. Chances of these parents having a child that shows the dominant trait. Remember that green is dominant. 2 out of the 4 squares have the phenotype of being green. 2 out of the 4 squares show the dominant trait, so that's a 50% chance, is 2 out of 4. Recessive trait also, just same as numbers 1 and 2, it's the yellow. So that's 2 out of 4 squares show the recessive trait. Remember that trait means phenotype. It does not mean allele. Lowercase, and 50%. 2 out of 4. Is green dominant or recessive? Okay, so we're going to look in these two lowercase letters. Remember that this darker color in the actual test is green, the lighter color in the actual test is yellow. So we have uppercase Y's and lowercase y's. This is not the best because y's look similar upper and lowercase, but we can tell the difference like this. So the heterozygous ones are yellow. That's a big clue. Whatever trait the heterozygous one has is the dominant trait. So two lowercase letters is the homozygous recessive, and it's going to show the recessive trait, which is green. So in this Punnett square, green is the recessive trait. If you notice, just as a coincidence-ish, not really a coincidence, but the Punnett square in which green is dominant, they used G's, and the Punnett square in which yellow is dominant, they used Y's. That's sometimes a pattern, but it's not a universal rule. Okay. All right, and these, the darker, the gray is the purple, and then this white. It says, what are the genotypes of the parents in this Punnett square? So the parents are here and here. BB times BB, they're both heterozygous. Anytime we see this one recessive trait in the corner, we should know that it's a heterozygous cross. So both parents are heterozygous right there. Okay, so now we are in the next section on incomplete codominance, multiple alleles, multiple genes. What type of inheritance is shown in this image? The gray seahorses are heterozygous. Well, you have black, you have white, and you have gray. Gray is halfway in between. It's like a mix of black and white. When we look at mixtures, that's like mixing paint and a third phenotype. That's incomplete dominance. Okay, what type of dominance causes the AB blood type? Well, in codominance is what it is. And we can eliminate complete dominance because we're not in the complete dominance section. There's nothing about sex chromosomes. We can eliminate that. And incomplete dominance is not true because we can see both phenotypes. We see triangles and circles. Incomplete dominance would be like a third shape that is not a triangle nor a circle. Okay, so parent with type A blood and type B blood having a child with O blood if both parents are heterozygous for their blood type. So to be heterozygous for type A, it's this genotype. Heterozygous for type B is that genotype. Type O, what we're looking for is two lowercase i's. So we have split the genotype into the alleles for one parent, and then on the other side of the Punnett square for the other parent. And it's basically, even though this is a multiple alleles situation because you have 1, 2, 3 different alleles instead of a standard Punnett square where you would have like, the 2 alleles. We have multiple alleles for blood type. So this square, we're going to end up with AB, BI, AI, II. So 1 out of the 4 squares is going to give you the genotype for O blood, which is a 25% chance. In a dihybrid cross of 2 parents who both have genotypes of DDBB, lowercase d's, uppercase b's, what are the gametes you would put at the top of each column row for the Punnett square? Well, you do FOIL, you separate the letters, and in this case, it's all going to be the same because there's only lowercase d's and there's only uppercase b's. So all of the gametes are going to be lowercase d, uppercase b. This one, some people got confused. They were trying to like split it in their mind like this, but this would be, DD and BB. So this is a better answer. It's more specific, more accurate, and there's no way to misinterpret it. Okay, having a child with green eyes, we had 3 squares that showed green eyes. So that's that. Some people, I guess, thought that they were talking about only this one dark green. So that's the type of situation where if you say, well, is it all 3 of the greens or one of the greens, and you're not sure exactly what it's asking, then that's a perfect chance to message me or ask me during the thing. Okay, these were probably 2 of the most difficult questions. That's probably because, you only had that exposure to that material once the day before the quiz, and it was through that video that I sent with the sub. So hemophilia is an X-linked recessive trait. So that means in order to have hemophilia, a female would have to have both alleles for hemophilia. A male, on the other hand, would just have to have one allele for hemophilia because he doesn't have that second X chromosome with the working gene or working allele. So if she just has regular healthy hemoglobin allele and a lowercase hemophilia allele, she is heterozygous. She might be a carrier because she can give it to her sons, but she doesn't. She already has the working allele to make regular hemoglobin. So she doesn't have hemophilia. On the other hand, the guy, even though he only has this one lowercase allele, he doesn't have the uppercase allele as well. He doesn't have the functioning allele also. And so his body can't make the normal hemoglobin. He doesn't have the instructions. They both have the one recessive, but the difference is that the female also has the functioning hemoglobin allele and the male doesn't have that second X. So he doesn't have anywhere to have that second allele. All right, so if mom is homozygous for the trait of hemophilia, what percent of her male children will have hemophilia? Well, it doesn't matter what the dad is because we're talking about her male children. So her male children had to get the Y from their dad, not the X. Because if her children had gotten the X from their dad, that's what makes them a daughter. So her male children had to get their Y chromosome from their dad, which means they had to get their X chromosome from their mom. So automatically 100% of the sons of a mother with hemophilia will have hemophilia. Some of you did the 50% because you're thinking all her children. So I should have emphasized more strongly, maybe capitals or adding sons or something. But with sex-linked traits versus other Punnett squares, we often talk about percent of sons and percent of daughters. Okay. If a daughter has the trait of hemophilia, which must be true about her parents, do a Punnett square to help you answer the question. So here's a possible scenario. Let's say that we're just going to put the daughter with hemophilia in one of the squares of the Punnett square right there. And that means that she must have gotten one of those X with the lowercase h alleles from her mom, and she must have gotten the other one from her dad. And if she got it from her dad, then automatically her dad has hemophilia because, again, he has that genotype for hemophilia. So her father must have hemophilia. You could also say her mother must be a carrier, but that's, or either have the disease or be a carrier, but that's not one of the choices. Her mother does not have to have hemophilia because she's a heterozygous individual, so she's just a carrier. She does not actually have hemophilia. She still has normal hemoglobin made by her other copy of the allele.